body parts, heads, hands, feet, etc.
This document has never been seen in public before.
Here we have a special police report. 24th of January, an operational unit of the Pagalova Police Detachment, having received secret information, carried out a search of the buildings of a refugee settlement in Pagalova School Number 2. During the search, the body of a 12-year-old boy was found, without a head and with the inner parts of his body removed. Also found were human legs belonging to both children and adults, 2 children's heads, and other different body parts.
But though Leningrad's brutal winter is humanity's enemy, it is no friend to Hitler. North of the city, Lake Ladoga freezes solid in late November, and thick ice forms a land link to the motherland through the one area not held by the Wehrmacht. They call it the Road of Life. It carries a precious trickle of food to the starving millions, brings out helpless women and children, and offers a slender lifeline to those that must remain in the beleaguered city, despite the savage attentions of the Luftwaffe. But it is never enough. At best, the Road of Life can only provide 1/3 of Leningrad's daily food needs. And those are just the official figures. At the start of 1942, Leningrad hovers somewhere between life and death. They have already been written off by Hitler. There is no need to take Leningrad, he tells the Bundestag. Within a few weeks, the city will devour itself. But in these bleakest hours, Leningrad survivors seek nourishment of the mind and of the soul through culture.
Представляете, я в Ленинграде написал Стехановой книжку «Оборона древнерусских городов».
You probably know my book, Defense of Ancient Russian Cities. Well, I wrote this book together with Madame Tikhanova during the siege in Leningrad. How did it come about? Well, I was summoned to party headquarters at Smolny. I wasn't a party member, but I was summoned there. And to get there, I had to cross the whole city. Well, I had so little energy that I could hardly drag my feet along. But I still went to Smolny. When I went in, the first thing that struck me was the smell of the canteen, which meant that people were eating there. I was met by a woman, I won't call her fat, but let's just say she was a healthy, hearty-looking woman, the head of some department or other. She told me that a book was needed to raise the spirits of people in Leningrad. So I agreed to the commission, because I didn't think of the commission as coming from her, but more directly from the people of Leningrad, who were the ones who really needed it. So I went home, barely dragging my feet along. That woman in Smolny didn't even think of feeding me. None of them did. And it took me all day to get there and back.
Authors, artists, all still working. Architect Alexander Nikolsky, his triumphal arch, a gesture of faith in victory. And the great composer Dmitri Shostakovich, completing his immortal Leningrad Symphony, as the city of its inspiration is ripped apart around him. As a symbol of defiance, the work's first performance must take place in Leningrad. Musicians are recalled from the front, but conductor Eliasberg faces unique problems during rehearsals. The orchestra administrator's report is terse, but it tells the story. The first violin is dying. The drum died on the way to work. The French horn is about to die. And yet, in the bomb-damaged Philharmonia Hall, Leningrad's symphony soars above the mayhem. announcing the triumph of art over death. 25 years later, touching proof that mere mortals defy death less easily. Survivors of the original orchestra and of that first night audience gather to commemorate the siege. Eliasberg leads them once more. And empty places are reserved for the dead. It is a performance of ghosts under the wistful eye of the composer. And as they pay tribute to the dead, surely, too, they remember Leningrad's children. Innocent, terrified victims of Hitler's crimes. Thousands of children lose their lives in the siege. But so many more are touched by death before they have discovered life. Learning to grieve for loved ones, to endure hunger, fear, cold and pain. But the children will leave behind their own poignant contribution to Leningrad's siege history. Little Tanya Savicheva keeps a diary of her family under siege. Just a small address book, a friend or relative mentioned under